I don't even know where to start. I took a trip back to my hometown on the train. I actually love the train. It is nostalgic, it's beautiful, and I can see all the farmland from a safe distance where I have never felt insecure or threatened. And that might sound really stupid to be threatened by farmland, but let me explain. I grew up in this tiny town called Wallaceburg, and I've done a video about this a long time ago, but I didn't go back. You know, I just kind of talked about it. And now I had an opportunity to go visit some family and at the same time kind of spend time reflecting and exploring the place that made me it made me like it just in the restaurant I wanted to say something, but I didn't know what to say really. This town has 1,000 million memories, and not all, very few of them are good. And I was in the restaurant and looking outside, and I realized that across this river, you can see that bridge. When I was like 13 years old, I had my first boyfriend, and we walked across that bridge. And we sat on a bench there somewhere, and it was nighttime, because when I was 13, I thought I was gay, so, you know, we were the gay couple in high school, even though he was a dropout. And we were sitting on the bench at night because the only time we felt safe in public together was at night. And then on this side of the river, there was a dude, I don't know who the hell it was dark, but he screamed like slurs at us from across the river. And I was sitting there in the brunch having like PTSD flashbacks, just sitting on a bench, minding my own business and being screamed at from across a river. And I was like, cool, loving that. That is amazing. Thank you for that flashback. Okay, every insecurity and mental health problem that I deal with is pretty much rooted back to this town. And the second I came back here, I felt okay in my family's vehicle and I felt okay in the house and everything, but when I tried to go outside by myself, I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't leave the backyard. So it's not even that I've grown. I mean, I have grown to an extent, but it's not that I can come back here and just be myself now that, you know, I know how to do that. It's like I come back here and immediately I go into this like instinctual, defensive, protective mode where I don't go anywhere and I don't do anything and I don't look at people. Like I had my head down, for God's sake. I haven't walked with my head down since I left. And I mean, I've come back before, but I've never tried to go anywhere by myself. And I never did in high school either. I never did. I guess I just want this video to be something that queer people can watch that might be struggling with this, or anybody really that feels ostracized or completely out of place in their community. I want them to be able to watch this and to say, you know, I can get out of here too, or like it's okay that I'm not strong here, because I am very strong in Toronto, but here, like, I will walk all over that multi-million population city at night by myself, any neighborhood, I don't care. And then here it's like I don't even want to walk down the street to the coffee shop in the middle of the day because I don't know who is gonna have it out for me. And I feel like people from this town might watch this video and be like, well, that's not true, that's not how it is. But I swear to you, every time I leave this house, I was at the Tim Hortons down the street earlier, and I can't be there without strangers staring at me nonstop. I can't go to brunch on a Sunday without all the lovely front row of the church people staring at me like I'm some kind of demon. I can't go back to the high school without people being afraid to look at me like I'm something that's going to harm them, like a Medusa or something. Now we're in the Shoppers Drug Mart where I started volunteering for high school volunteer hours. And then when it came time that I wanted a job, they didn't hire me because it was too controversial to hire me. But they would take my free labor, they just wouldn't pay me. So that's fun. And then I ended up applying at the Shoppers at the town over and got a part-time position and worked every weekend until I graduated. So, joke's on them. Shit. Here's some scoop. I was determined to visit my old high school today, but I'm honestly terrified. Like even just getting there, I'm gonna have to walk a couple of blocks and it scares me. And in Toronto, like that's not a problem. And Toronto is actually like a big city with crime and shit. But I'm safer there. And that's fucked up. Maybe I should wear clothes that are less, I don't know. Like I'm thinking maybe if I wear a sweater and some like boots instead of like this getup, that maybe I'll be more comfortable walking around this town, but I don't know if that's gonna make a difference. I wanted to go and like show them that I'm okay, you know, and that I survived whatever the fuck hell they put me through. But it's like walking back into hell. And for people that had good high school experiences, they just won't get it. And even my friends that I had back then are probably gonna be like, well, what are you talking about? We had good times. But like, it's not that black and white. I'm just so freaking scared. Shit, I think I'm gonna go change. Like, I can't believe I give a shit. I can't believe I give a shit, but I do. So I'm gonna go change. Like I'm too afraid to look over the fence. It's fucking ridiculous. Here's what I'll do. I'll call my mom and I'll talk to her the whole way, so that somebody knows if I'm gonna get attacked. I will hopefully see you at the high school. God, I'm so nervous. Why am I so nervous?
Thank you for helping with that thing. It's hard for me not to get frustrated.
I know. So, I was too scared to go. So I waited for my mom to come back to the house we're staying at. And now we're gonna go together. And the doors might be closed, like it might be locked up because it's after school technically now. But it's only after school by like 20 minutes. So it might still be open. Everybody's like afraid for me though. Am I right to be scared? Oh, it's fucking cold.
Well, I don't feel that you're actually as safe here as you are in Toronto.
I don't think I am either. But like whenever I have an anxious situation in a city, I always think like, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? It's not like I'm gonna die. But here I don't know that. Like, well, that's how I feel. I don't know that I'm not gonna get attacked, you know?
And I think we want to support you and make you feel safe and secure. So maybe it actually makes you feel more nervous. I don't know.
What makes me feel more nervous? Having you?
Yeah.
No. I feel better. I couldn't even get out of the backyard when I was by myself.
Right. So I'm with you.
Fuck, it's cold.
It is cold. Like the sun is bright, but the wind is cold.
Is it locked? No. You know, there's like so many instances where some shit happened to me, but done by other students, and then like I remember it, and it's been 5 or 6 years, but those people that did it in the very moment, they thought about it for 1 second, they don't remember anything about it. Like right here, for example, was where I walked past and the football team was standing there, and like 2 of them called me an idiot. Wow, what a good choice of words. Who would have expected that word? And then nobody said anything. It was just like I kept walking. But like, I remember that, and those people probably don't even remember it 10 minutes later. Whatever. When I was going to high school here, I was pretty much pressured to come out in 9th grade as gay, because that's what I thought I was, because I had no understanding of gender as a social construct, or, you know, I had no exposure to trans people whatsoever, so I thought I was gay. So I came out as that after my friends were like, are you gay, like every single day? And I was like, you know what, if they're asking me this every day, they probably don't care, so I'm just gonna come out. So one day I just said, yes, I am. Can you stop asking me? And everything was peachy. Everything was fine for a few months. And then the second semester of 9th grade started. And I went to my homeroom, which was a science class, and I went to sit next to my best friend. The science wing is where all this shit started. That was the first day of the worst 4 years ever. Here. It was this classroom where I went to sit next to my best friend the first day of second semester 9th grade, and he told me he would, quote, fucking kill me if I did that. And then I did it anyway because I thought he was joking, and he moved across the room, and there goes the avalanche. I had heard all of the horror stories about like gay teenagers in high school coming out and losing everything, and I was like, well, that's not me because I did this and I'm fine. But it was like night and day, black and white. All of a sudden, for some reason, nobody wanted anything to do with me. It's like they all got together in a meeting and decided that we're gonna just kick Stef out of the group now. Like, it was literally, it just happened overnight. It was the most bizarre experience that I've ever had, and it really fucked me up. I did make new friends, and I had lovely, amazing friends in high school, but no number of friends can really bounce you back from that feeling of being completely abandoned for absolutely no reason. No reason. I think the reason was that it was embarrassing to be seen with a gay person or a queer person. But why? Because they decided it was? I didn't do anything. I just appeared one day and they were like, oh, no more. No more of this. It was that moment in that 9th grade homeroom where I was like, oh, okay, well, I have to protect myself now. This is happening. Like, I'd heard the horror stories and it was happening to me. I didn't think it was going to, but it did. And it was time. What I did was I didn't go anywhere. I didn't do anything. I never went to a party in high school. I never went out very much. I would go out during the day with my friends in a group. It was 9th or 10th grade and I was walking back to the school from my house after lunch, because sometimes I like to walk back to my house for lunch because I lived like 2 blocks away or less. It was so close. It was like a 5-minute walk. And we were about halfway there and I was with my best friend, my new best friend. She was sweet. She was great. And I saw this guy walking towards me, towards us, on the sidewalk, like on the same sidewalk, just coming towards us, and I immediately felt this rising instinct to run. I was like, okay, well, this doesn't feel right. I think we should cross the street. She's like, no, it's fine, you're just having an anxiety attack. Because we both dealt with like anxiety and social whatever the fuck. We were just weird. So, he's like, we'll stay on this side of the street, like it's gonna be fine. And then as he gets closer, I see that he has this angry expression. He's very distraught about something. And I think I move over to let him by on that side of the sidewalk. This is my deaf ear, by the way. If you guys don't watch my videos, I'm deaf in this ear from birth. It's just a thing. He's walking this way, and as he gets here, he kind of stops, and he gets this like posture like this, like he's coming in towards me, like he's gonna try to overpower me. And he screams in my ear just a bunch of like horrible anti-queer slurs, right? Just awful shit. And it's like at this point in my life, I'm like, what even possesses a person to just scream a slur? Like, not even in a sentence. You know what I mean? It's not even like, I am going to do this to you, you blank. It's just like, blank. And then, but in the moment, I'm just like, that made sense. That experience kind of verified to me that I should be listening to my instincts. When I feel unsafe, I am unsafe. And I should just not listen to other people when they tell me it's going to be fine because they don't know what they're talking about. That was my takeaway from that situation. I went back to school, everything was fine, I did my thing, and then I went home, whatever. From then on, and remember, I lived 2 blocks from this school. I could walk back and forth in 5 minutes. From then on until the end of high school, I got a ride back and forth from school every day. But my mom was concerned that during, like in the morning or after school, there would be people like waiting to gang up on me or something. So every day, took the car 2 blocks. People started using my femininity as a weapon against me because, again, I thought I was gay, but I am a trans person. So that gender was just there the whole time, and it was manifesting in ways that, were totally normal. Like I was wearing women's clothing and I was wearing makeup. I was basically presenting as a woman. I just didn't understand that. I was just trying my hardest to do things to make me feel comfortable. And people were using that against me as like insults, like, you look like a chick, or, like, I don't know, just stuff that they thought would hurt me. And in response to that, I amped it up times 11 because I figured I started wearing the thing that they were trying to hurt me with like armor so that they couldn't hurt me with it. If somebody's going to use something against you, you just own it first. You bring it to the table so that they can't. And so I did that, and I wore the most outrageous stuff, and I would wear these like heelless hoof shoes like Lady Gaga, and I would paint my face in weird ways, and I would dye my hair bright colors, and it was like anything to make them think instead of that person's an abomination or, some other anti-queer thing. Instead, I wanted them to just be like, that person looks weird, I think was the intent for me. It was a protective thing. It was also an expression. I was angry and I was mad that people wouldn't just let me be. So I just let myself be even more. It was 10th or 11th grade and I had a social issues class, I believe, which I would murder in now, by the way. But in high school, I was learning and I was kind of like confused and just, very moderate about a lot of issues because I didn't have any exposure or understanding of anything beyond my tiny little town. And one day, because social issues classes like to debate and like to debate current issues, the teacher, who I loved so much, decided it would be prudent to debate whether or not gay people should have rights. And I was the only person in the school, and I thought I was gay. I was the only person there that was gay. The only person that was out, actually, because I had like 8 boyfriends that nobody knew about. But nowadays you might see even like conservative people on the side of, oh yeah, like they can get married and adopt, whatever, like I don't care anymore. But back 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, I don't remember how long ago this was, the majority of the class was on the no side to should gay people have rights. And I had to sit there and justify my existence to my peers. I had to sit there and say, like, I am human enough to have the same rights as you. As a kid. And the thing is, in the matter of should gay people have rights, there's a right answer. It's not a, oh, maybe, there's a right answer. That's not something that should be up for debate, especially in a high school classroom. You should be being taught that gay people have the same rights and should have the same rights. It shouldn't be like, do you think they should? Based on absolutely no scientific or any statistical, like just nothing. It was just very much like, what do you think, you uninformed child? And I had to sit there and listen to people tell me that I was perverted and like it would be a disservice to children for me to be around them. Meanwhile, I was living in a house full of foster children, and my mom had tutored kids every day. Like, my house was full of kids. I loved kids. I was always around them. And I was being told that I was a deviant and that I shouldn't be around them and that I was disgusting. And I knew that this wasn't true, but it was just hearing it from people that I shared a class with and people that were nice to me sometimes. There was this really smart girl. Let's call her Liza, okay? And I really admired her. I really respected her because she didn't do what other people wanted her to do. She just focused on her work and she was herself and she just did her thing. And people liked her because she was herself. And I was like, cool, you're cool. And she was on the side of gay people shouldn't have rights based on a religious reason. And I immediately lost all respect for her. Immediately. I was like, this is a wake-up call. Don't trust anybody because they might be nice to your face, but they're gonna vote for the person to take away your rights right in front of you. So this hallway is where my locker was first year. I think it was 2120. I think it was this one right here. Hell yeah. And I was walking down this hallway from back there up that way. And I remember there was a group of popular guys standing by these lockers. And then my brother's friends that stayed back another year were down sitting on the ground hanging out there. And the kids my grade, again, shouted slurs at me. And I kept walking and I was like okay with it at that point because I was just used to it. But at that point, like, my brother's friends were still here and they stood up for me, but it was very nonchalant. Holy shit. This is the classroom where I debated whether or not gay people should have rights with my peers. And there were more people on the no side. And I was the only gay student in the whole school. And I had to sit there and justify my existence to my peers. People often are like, why is she so angry at white people, at cis people, at men, at the government, at police, at all? Why is she so angry at all these things? And it's all informed from my experiences that I had growing up. Every single bit of it. It's not that I went online and, like people like to commonly, you know, throw issues like this into a bucket. It is not that I went and read some Tumblr post and decided that, you know, all men are evil. It's that I experienced living in a system, in a culture where I was less valued because I didn't follow XYZ rules that weren't even about keeping anybody safe. It wasn't about being happy. There was no reason for these systems and these rules, and it wasn't rules that I could conform to even if I wanted to. And because of that, I was completely ostracized. I did not go online and read some dumb article and say, oh yeah, I agree. I lived these experiences. That is why I'm so angry. I wanted to start a GSA in my school. There was, again, I was the only openly gay person, but there were lots of queer people in that school that were not out. I asked a bunch of the girls that I was friends with, like, would you go to that? Like, we would just hang out and have a good time at lunch. It's really just about creating a space where we can relax, where I can relax, and I just want to feel safe. And they were like, yeah, I'd come to that. That'd be fun. We could have snacks, whatever. We could share food. I don't care. Like, it was really just a space for me to feel okay. And I asked the principal, and I got a sponsor, a teacher sponsor who would, you know, go and supervise or whatever. I had 2 volunteers to do that, actually, because the teachers liked me because I did my work. I was a good student. And after I got all that work done, and I was like ready to start this, and I had ideas for meetings and stuff, the principal comes and meets me in the hallway. And he tells me that I can't have a GSA because then he would have to allow a Christian group to have a group. And he didn't want to create division among the students. Quite frankly, it was already too late to not create division amongst the students because I was already divided from a vast majority of the student population well before there were any Christian groups or gay groups. And you know what? I'm like, fine. I'm not gonna fight you. You know, you're a 6.5 foot tall principal. At least maybe he was. Maybe I was shorter back then. I don't know. I felt like he was very tall. The point is, I didn't have the mental energy to fight this man about it. So I said, okay. I accepted his reason because, you know, I could handle if anti-gay groups weren't gonna have a group. If that is what he meant by Christian group. I don't think that's what he meant at all, but like, Christianity is not inherently anti-gay. You can be a Christian and be progressive. Like, it's not. Anyway, lo and behold, the beginning of next semester, I hear on the morning announcements, weeks later, at the beginning of the next semester, on the announcements I hear, Christian Fellowship. Sign up for the Christian Fellowship. But I couldn't have a GSA. So I was told no, because it would create division. But then the group that he referenced in saying that it would create division for got their group. And that was like, okay, don't trust authority figures, because they don't give a shit about you if it's gonna cause any kind of stink that might come back to them. 12th grade. I'd had experiences on my own property, like at my house, where I was in the backyard and there were kids behind in the park screaming about how, you know, oh, look at the queer's house. Look at the queer's house, it's right there. And my dad was in the backyard, he got so furious and he just like was miserable. And I had experiences where I was gonna take out the garbage and I was in my garage, and down the driveway at the sidewalk, there were kids walking past, they screamed slurs at me. I had experiences like that. I had garbage thrown all over my lawn. I've had things like that happen to me, but this was a whole nother level of terrorizing. I left my house 7:30 in the morning, whatever, because I had school at like 8 and my mom was gonna drive me as usual. At the time we had one of the kids that was living with us was like 12, 13. She stops in her tracks on one side of the vehicle and she's like looking at it like, what the heck? And this vehicle was my mom's absolute favorite vehicle she's ever had. It was a Jeep Commander and it was dark green, and my mom is like 4'11" and she loves big vehicles that make her feel like she is big and safe, right? So this was her absolute favorite vehicle she's ever had in her entire life. She loves this thing to death. And this girl's just sitting there staring at it like this. And then, you know, my mom goes back and is like, what are you looking at? And she stops and is looking at it like this. And then I get around to the other side. And I stop and I look at the vehicle. And I'm like, what are they looking at? And first thing I notice is that the vehicle's tilted towards me. Like, it is facing this way, but it's tilted this way. And that leads me to look at the tires, which I realize have been slashed. And then I look at the door. And this is like a few feet from my front door, by the way. And across the side of the vehicle was spray painted in black paint, faggot. And then I went into shock. I couldn't hear anything. It was that high-pitched sound you see in the movies. It was like that. My legs gave out and I kind of just stopped. I stopped in time. I was frozen. I couldn't do anything. I think I got up and I walked back in the house and I sat down in like the armchair we had in the living room, and I just sat there. And at first I didn't cry. I was just thinking, I was like, this is my home. I didn't do anything to anybody. I didn't even go into their space. You know, I didn't go outside in like a flamboyant outfit and like do anything. I just was in my home at night, minding my business, where I should be safe. And somebody came onto the property, slashed the tires, and spray painted a slur across it that was very clearly directed to me. Very, very clearly. What ended up happening was we called the police. They agreed it was a hate crime. Nothing happened. They didn't investigate, nothing. I mean, I understand there's probably very little to go with, but they just didn't give a shit. They said, yes, it's a hate crime, bye. And I was like, cool, thank you. That's great, I appreciate it, thanks. And that taught me the police don't care about queer people. Oh, surprise. And then my mom couldn't look at the vehicle anymore. She went to get it painted that day. She paid for the paint, like she got it fixed. And then like a week or two later, she was like, I can't look at this vehicle. I need to get rid of it. So all because I existed, somebody vandalized my mother's expensive vehicle, and essentially forced her into buying a new one just so she could move on. So not only was this now affecting me at school, it was now affecting my family. Who, by the way, were always supportive. There was never a moment where they caused me any of this grief. Two days after graduating high school, I was 17 years old, I moved to Toronto. My parents, I had their help. Like, I could not have done that by myself. I had saved some money working because I'd been working since I was 15 years old. The town over, because my hometown wouldn't hire me anywhere because it was too controversial. That also recently happened to, my mom used to tutor kids. It happened to one of her black students couldn't get hired in Wallaceburg because he was black. So this is not just queer people in this town that is, you know, receiving this shit. I went to a makeup college, and I was really apprehensive because I thought people were going to dislike me just like they did in Wallaceburg. But then I turned out to meet an amazing group of people. My life in Toronto, there was no comparison. When I was in Toronto, I still to this day cannot recall a moment where I've heard anybody say faggot in Toronto. Not even a queer person. I'm sure they say it because it's a reclaiming thing now, but like, I still can't recall a moment where I've heard it. I came back here, and within 3 days, I've heard the N-word and the F-word like 4 times from people just on the street. And I'm like, cool. Not at me, just being said casually in conversation. I'm very successful. I'm as happy as I can be living in Toronto. I have a wonderful home that I share with my mom, who now lives in Toronto as well. People aren't ashamed to be seen with me on the street. People don't talk about me behind my back in a negative way. And it sucks that I had to move across the province and spend probably 10 times as much money on rent and supplies and food and all this just to live in a place where I don't get harassed for existing. But that is the reality of queer people right now in a lot of places, is you're just not allowed to exist in places that aren't big cities. And that sucks, because even in cities, trans people face extreme unemployment rates and extreme poverty rates and extreme harassment. But it's still way better than a lot of these smaller town environments. And I guess I don't want you to think that you have to leave your town, because that is not an option for everybody. If it is an option, I encourage you, if you're having the experience that I had, I encourage you to get the hell out of there if you can. If you can't, I don't know. Because I didn't do that. I don't know. My best advice would be just to make connections online, make friends online, just find a community that accepts you and that you can be yourself in. Because that's the way I survived high school in that town, was I played World of Warcraft nonstop. I played all these fantasy games and I read all these where I could escape. I got out of that town. I always say I was raised on the internet and in fantasy worlds. I was not raised in Wallaceburg. I do not relate to Wallaceburg. I don't feel safe. There's an element of nostalgia just related to experiences and people and places in this town, but not to the town. There was a quote that's often attributed to, I think it's mass shooters. And it's unjustly, by the way, attributed to mass shooters. And I don't want anybody to think I'm going to burn the town down, okay? But the quote is, "The child rejected by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth." And I don't feel that violence towards this town. I don't want to burn the town down, okay? But I absolutely resent it. When I come here, you know, if I'm not with family that I know and love, I just don't like it. I feel angry. I feel hurt. But I would never attack somebody. I would never burn down a building. And I think I want to touch on this whole walk up, don't walk out bullshit. First of all, it puts the weird kids in the corner with the mass shooters. The weird kids are not the mass shooters. Even back to Columbine, this shit was being talked about with, you know, talk to them, you know, make them feel loved and stuff. The thing is, those kids were walking around the fucking school giving Nazi salutes and hailing Hitler and stuff. It wasn't about them being weird. They were not weird. They were ostracized because they were horrible racist pricks. So this walk up bullshit applying to the weird kids like me It's not helpful. It just makes us feel more ostracized and more pitied and more separate when the kids you should be talking to, and not in a kind way, are the ones throwing up white nationalist bullshit on their Facebook page and, you know, talking about how black people are inferior. There is a obvious and common connection in all of these mass shootings, and that is misogyny and racism. And until we address that, these aren't going to stop. Also, gun reform. Thank you. Anyway, I'm going to go now. I hope this has helped somebody. If you're from Wallaceburg and you're watching this, I hope you've learned something, and I hope the next queer person that pops up in your high school isn't treated the same way I was, because I'm lucky I survived. I hope you're happy in that town. I don't want it to go away. I don't want anything bad to happen to it. I want it to get better. I want it to improve. I want it to be a place where I could come and potentially live. I don't think I ever want to live here again, but it would be nice if that was an option for everybody, not just for one kind of person. I'm gonna go now. I will see you all later. I love you so much. Until next time, just remember, no matter what, even if it seems impossible, it is possible to escape your current circumstances and live a better life. It's just gonna be harder for some people. Doesn't mean it can't happen ever. You're just gonna have to, I don't know, do something. I know it's not easy, but I wish that for you. I will see you later. Bye. Holy shit. That's my class.
Is it in here or
It's this one somewhere.
There you are.
Oh my god.
Yep.
There she is.